Welcome everyone to Art Forum. I'm Nadine Christensen and along with Tristan Harwood from CATS, we're sort of holding the fort for David Sequeira, who curates Art Forum. I'd like to invite you to join me in grounding yourself in the deep knowledge that for generations the Boonwurrung and Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation practiced song and dance on this country. They made paintings and sculpture, they shared stories and practiced healing. These traditions and rituals continue today, and it's a joy and an honour to acknowledge their elders past, present and emerging. It's a particular pleasure for me to introduce Narelle Desmond today. Narelle's an old friend, and you could say we grew up in the art world together, couldn't you, Narelle?
Yeah, definitely.
Narelle's, an artist, a collaborator, a teacher, a curator, many things. Her work focuses on how we traverse time through the things we make. Technology and design have long been central to our evolution, shaping how we create, consume and connect. Yet technology is no longer a tool of our control. We cannot close it down, and it's become sort of invisible from the natural world. Through her research and practice, Narelle explores how design and time can help us cultivate a deeper understanding of the world. This outlook was brought into focus by a chance encounter with a tiny beetle in her studio, a creature whose evolutionary lineage spans nearly 300 million years. Considering the humble beetle as an emblem of evolutionary resilience, Narelle's current art practice is narrated by a creature older than time and on a human scale. This talk is also part of the Melbourne Design Week, and we'd like to especially welcome our staff and students and colleagues from VCA Design today.
Thanks, Nadine. Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for giving up your lunch and joining us today. So we might be in the company of a mix of art students and design students, so perhaps for the first time, which is great. So I work in the design department here at VCA. I'm an artist and a designer as well. I'm trained as an artist and a designer. I'm very excited that this has kind of become part of Melbourne Design Week. I thought I might be a bit nervous, so I thought I might start with a joke. So I asked a colleague, and this is what they said. Jokes for Art Forum. They're not very good. None of them are very good. I don't mind number 3. I made a piece about the future, but it kept ghosting me. And then when I was looking through this, I thought, well, you know, the emojis were kind of the thing that I thought were the funniest, because there goes AI again, sort of conflating key concepts. But then I thought about this actually, and I thought on closer inspection, these icons suggest that art and time are older than the digital age, which sort of relates to this talk in a way. So I thought they kind of reminded me that time, the hourglass, the time was once measured tactically, visually, and tactilely. And so, yeah, and the palette perhaps like making us think that maybe beyond the coded and generated images, that art was once made by hand. To frame the talk, I know it's lunchtime, there's some big thinking here. I'm doing a PhD, so I've made some works around the theme that I'm calling spectral modernity. But today I thought what I'd do would be to talk you through 3 works only, and we'll see how we go for time. I'd really like, if time permits, to show you a work that I made when I was a student studying in the painting department back in 1992. So I might reflect on this piece here. This isn't one of the ones that I want to talk about in detail, but I'm thinking about these ideas which are sort of the legacy, I guess, of industrialisation and modernity. So thinking of systems and objects that are around us that don't just simply structure space, they influence our behaviours and our habits and how we experience time. So design is a big part of this research. So design, thinking about that as a rational force that was once imagined as a way to propel society towards a better future, now plays a more ambiguous role. So thinking about me being an artist, making work about critical design theory is sort of where it sits. It's not about a designer making artworks. So I guess I'm thinking about this kind of ideas around accelerating unsustainable production, which is pretty obvious, but also how alternative ways of living can be obscured by this design that's being created. So I'm using this term spectral modernity in relation to time and production. My current work uses spaces in between spaces like corridors and waiting rooms and transit hubs, places that there's sort of like this sort of slippage of time, places where time feels stretched or time feels suspended. So this particular work here, this was made for an exhibition in 2003, and this was thinking about these pillars, 4 pillars of working for McDonald's, which are efficiency, control, predictability, and calculability. So there's some theory around this, it's called McDonald'sization, which is looking at these 4 pillars kind of going outside of this framework of the fast food industry and permeating other areas of society. So here we can see that clocks that might typically have had place names from other countries become these pillars. So the key areas that I'm looking at are how our lived experiences are shaped by the things we make. So we might think about a smartphone, for example, here where the technology is now part of us and we're not indivisible from it. The power structures embedded in the human-made systems. So this could be anything from a speed hump that sort of directs our behaviour to big concepts like time. How contemporary life is haunted by modernity. So examples might be surveillance systems and just this repetition of things just getting rolled out repeatedly as new. And the last one, using vast time scales as a lens to rethink modes of making, and this is where the beetle comes in. So it's small, but it's a sort of significant talisman that's become really enmeshed in the research. Its evolutionary lineage spans hundreds of millions of years, and it serves as this sort of like alternative narrator in the research. So the actual beetle has a voice, and even though it's my voice, it's sort of coming through as the voice of the beetle. So it's really thinking about these temporal timescales that are far beyond the human. This is a black African beetle. It's an invasive species and it probably arrived by boat. And it's part of the Scarabeidi family. And weirdly, at the time when this turned up in my studio, I sort of recognised this as a chance meeting with something older and on a human scale. So, yeah, I came to see the beetle as a traveller that was crossing networks. Historically, beetles have 1 foot in this world and 1 in another distant civilization. The ancient Egyptians believed that the dung beetle mirrors the sun god Ra, rolling the sun across the sky. And I thought that maybe this was kind of not a bad painting to sort of illustrate this. So contemporary science discovered that beetles use celestial navigation to roll their dung balls. And I think that perhaps the ancient Egyptians already knew this. So this is a quote from Mark Twain and a painting by Ed Ruscha. And I kind of like this slippage of time. So here's an infographic that sort of talks to this sort of deep time thinking that I'm cultivating or thinking about, like, bringing into the story of this research. So challenging short-term thinking that dominates human culture and politics and history and the academy by asking us to think in evolutionary timescales. So this is, if we think about the Earth being 4.54 billion years old, this is a time compression analogy to get your head around it. So we're using a single day to kind of think of like the whole history of the Earth. So at 12 a.m. the Earth is formed. Life appears not until about 4:09 a.m. And then it's not until 1041 that photosynthesizing bacteria have managed to take enough sun to fill the air with oxygen. So this takes 1.7 billion years. And then plants emerge at 6:40 p.m. and insects don't appear until 9:52 p.m. Dinosaurs are about 10:47 p.m. and mammals are 10:55. So that's sort of framing the emergence of humans, which actually doesn't happen until 11:59 p.m. And recorded human history, the last 5,000 years would take place at 0.0047 seconds before midnight. And the Industrial Revolution is like 0.002 seconds. So this is just a kind of a way to kind of understand this sort of mind-bending scale of time. In the grand scheme of Earth's history, humanity is less than the blink of an eye, yet our geological impact on the planet is one of the most significant transformation the planet has ever seen. So my research is that this is not just driven by our existence, but by the things we produce. And this uncomfortable truth is kind of, I guess, where the research sits. So I'm going to talk to these three things: a bucket, a bus shelter, and a beetle today. And the first work I want to talk about is a work that I made in 2022. It's called Overtime. So I made this work while I was at a studio artist at Contemporary Gertrude. And around this time I was looking at some books around the carrier bag theory of evolution. So Elizabeth Fisher's theory of the carrier bag of evolution. But there was another essay that was written by Ursula K. Le Guin on the back of that called The Carrier Bag Theory of Fiction, which some of you may have read. It's a really good essay. I recommend it. So this was the starting point for retelling the story of human origins. So rather than a spear or a weapon or a weapon to kill, Fisher suggests that the first cultural implement was more likely a bag for foraging or a container to bring things home. So this questioning of history offers a view that early humans were gathering and foraging using those types of strategies and challenging this sort of stereotype that weapons of dominance were our primary evolutionary tools. So I guess one thing that I do want to mention with this talk is that it's about creating stories. So if Elizabeth Fisher's theory is about challenging history, then Ursula K. Le Guin's essay is telling us how to rewrite a new story. So the heroic, techno-heroic masculine male of human origin story is upended in favour of a net, bag or a container. So this work here uses these two elements of the basket and the beetle, and they were incorporated into this work called Overtime. So it's a room that takes the shape of a woven basket. I watched some YouTube tutorials to taught me how to do it. It was hand painted, so yeah, it took a while. I had some friends help. So the basket is a large room and it serves as a container for the beetle, but it may also be considered as a microcosm for something much larger again. The beetle waits it out on a screensaver. The looping beetle's resilience across evolutionary time embodies this other essay that I read called Container Technologies by a theorist called Zoe Sophia, who's, my new hero, thanks to Helen, who's introduced me to her. So thinking about technologies by reflecting on containers as repositories of both human and non-human histories, bridging timescales that are far beyond human comprehension. And Sophia, I'm happy to give any of the materials that I'm reading from to anyone if they're interested. You can just email me. But she's acknowledging this sort of messy, entangled reality of our existence through the idea of a container. So the monitor's displaying this sort of endless looping journey, and it kind of becomes this meditation on survival and persistence. It looks like it's trapped, this beetle, but it's, as a species, I've mentioned it dates back nearly 300 million years. But yeah, they're a kind of a resilient little creature. They have been found on every continent and every corner of the earth. So I guess we can presume that since they date back through this long arc of history, they have an excellent chance of survival moving forward. So within the presence of this installation, it prompts us to think about the precarity, I guess, of our own existence and ongoing presence and the ongoing processes that endure despite humanity's fleeting presence and destabilising behaviour. So I'm just going to, this is an experiment. I haven't actually told anyone about this part of it yet. I mean, I haven't read any of this out, but the beetle comes into the writing as it has a voice. So I haven't read this out before. And I'm not a creative writer. So I've sort of ripped this from two different sources. I've ripped it from Nigerian-American science fiction writer Nnedi Okorafor and Zoe Sophia, my new hero, Container Technologies. So this is what the beetle says in the research. It might say something like this, I'm not sure. They watched in fascinated horror for information, but mostly for entertainment. Footage of what they were doing in the world dominated every international news source, video sharing website, social network, tablet circle. And as they watched, an environment existed that smoothly provides year-round access to seasonal foods, 24-hour access to hot water, internet connectivity and banking services. But our story goes deeper. It's in the cracks, the dirt, the mud, the earth, in the memory of the soily cosmos and its ancestors. It's in the always mingling past, present and future. So moving on, the next work that I want to show you is a work that was based on Walt Disney's Fantasia. So this takes its cues from The Sorcerer's Apprentice, which is the tale of, let's just call it power without responsibility. So here we have Mickey the apprentice, who's an apprentice magician, who's putting a spell on the broom and mop to do the chores. And then he doesn't have the skills to be able to tell the broom to stop, so it just keeps doing these chores endlessly. And to get it to stop, he chops it into pieces, and each piece reforms to make another version of itself. And so there's this endless cycle. So there's endless mess created. So this is the work that I made. Again, it was at Gertrude while I had the residency there, and this was the gallery mop and bucket. It was actually probably the easiest work I've ever made, if I'm honest. So it might look that it's been sort of left in the gallery after performing its chores, but then when we see the shadow, we kind of realise that there's something else happening. So it sort of transforms from this ubiquitous, mundane tool to an ominous presence, carrying out relentless, mindless labour. The consideration here is the deeper implications of the mop's presence. Do the objects we create have an agency that goes beyond the simple utilitarian and practical functions they were designed for? We might consider viewing the shadow as an allegory for the condition of the modern worker under capitalism, and metaphor for the invisible yet omnipresent forces that shape much of our world. Forces often hidden behind the form and function of everyday objects and technology. The mop, in its shadowy guise, speaks to the dehumanising aspects of work. The mop's imposing shadow hints at the ways in which our tools often are seen as neutral and benign, but in fact imbued with power to shape lives in profound and unseen ways. This sort of fits in with the Marxist critique, which is not really that much interest to this research, but it's sort of like it enables sort of a link to be made to other theorists like Bruno Latour. So if we think about the tale, The Sorcerer's Apprentice tale by Goethe, the producer is now controlled by the products of their labour rather than the other way around. The mop, though simple and unremarkable, becomes a powerful emblem of this inversion. All right, moving along. The third work I want to talk about is a work that I made prior to this research, and it centres around this artwork by an artist who I deeply adore called Carmen Herrera. So this is from 2014. She's a Cuban-American artist. So I was first introduced to her work at the Whitney in 2017, and she had a survey show called Lines of Sight. And by this time, she was 100 years old. So it was an amazing show, and it sort of outlined her life. She was born in Cuba and she moved to New York when she was in her 20s. Her paintings are formal. There's like this sort of formal simplicity. She made some sculptures too, which I really loved, but she didn't have enough money at the time to kind of like go any further with the sculptures. So there was only a handful. But yeah, like they showed in this show sort of her conceptual concerns and experiments, which were along the same lines as Ellsworth Kelly and Frank Stella. So there was sort of like a timeline of when they'd made what. So she was very much doing the same thing at the same time. So while they were catapulted to stardom, she remained invisible. She kept working in her studio. Decades went by. In fact, she didn't sell her first work until she was 84. Both as a woman and immigrant, she faced significant discrimination in the art world. And I think it was this persistence that really kind of resonated with me, that she just kept going for 6 decades, in a studio. So although her work at the time was groundbreaking, she was just never recognised. And she noted, a Latin woman painting in the manner that I did stood no chance. At the time of Lines of Sight, she was 101 years of age. As I walked around the exhibition, I was excited to discover her amazing work. But I actually left there, I've got to say, I left there feeling pretty angry and kind of a bit gutted that we didn't know about her practice. And I just couldn't stop thinking about her and just thinking about what was the drive to kind of keep going when you weren't recognised at all. So while I was in that exhibition, I overheard a question that was asked to a tour guide, and the question was, how does Carmen feel about her newfound fame? And the guide replied, Carmen says, if you wait for the bus will come. So I loved this quote, and I was like, that's very humble. And when I returned home, I couldn't stop thinking about her work, and I was sort of deeply moved and inspired by her and everything. So I wanted to make a work for her, which became Bus Shelter for Carmen. So I made this for an exhibition at Station Gallery. It's a full-size bus stop. It's made out of high-density foam, and it features her work, Alba. So I put this in here because there's a kind of a link that actually is the connector between the research I'm doing now and sort of when it started. So although this is a homage to her, it was really beginning, it was really about this sort of pervasiveness of sort of this male modern genius that was really yanking my chain. But then as the work began to take shape, I realised that actually what I'd made harnessed time. So here I am using the bus stop as a place of waiting. I'm imagining Carmen waiting. And while this is a place to wait, this particular work contains sort of like, represents the past and the past and the future simultaneously. So it's a place for waiting for an unknown future, and it's a place where the future has arrived. Because by that time, she's well known by the time I made this. So Carmen died in 2022 at the age of 106. I tried to get in touch with her, but I was never successful. I really wanted to show her this, but I mean, maybe she saw it and didn't care. But but I really felt like the need to like let her know that I'd made this. But the same year that I made this at Sotheby's, she sold a work. It wasn't this work, but it was a work similar for the equivalent of 4.5 million Australian. I guess that was proof for me that the market had recognised this extraordinary woman whose work had been historically undervalued. How are we for time? Oh, quick, I'm going to quickly do this. I want to show you one last thing, which is a work that I made when I was a student. So I found this book in the South Bank Library called Who's Who of American Art, and this was in 1990s. It was in the late 90s. And it was the first conceptual artwork I ever made. So I was flicking through this book, and it had like the artist's name, and then it had like a little bit of a bio, and it had, well, not even a bio, it was just sort of like shows that they'd had, and then at the bottom it had an address. And I was like, this was predating internet. So there's no way, this was like, the internet wasn't even a thing. It was like not even commercialised until the year after. So there was no way of sort of getting in touch with these high profile people. So I saw the addresses, and I was like, I'm going to send them some letters. And I was really inspired at the time by this artist named Christian Boltanski, who I'm sure you're all familiar with, who had done a letters project, and I loved his work and was really, motivated to make a conceptual art piece. So I sent 100 letters to artists that I had some affinity with, and I wrote in the letter, can you sign the same? I've written their name in my handwriting, just their name on an A4 piece of paper, and I asked them to sign my name on the same piece of paper and send it back. I didn't have enough money to send a reverse, a stamp addressed envelope or anything like that. And I only had $50 and it was 50 cents a stamp, so I had 100 artists. So I simply asked for that, and then I just sent it away and we'll see what happens. And a month went by. And I got this one, and I got it back from Christo and Janine Corn. But it didn't do what I asked. It actually was just fan mail. They just sent some postcards of their own work and wrote their name at the top. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm still pretty happy that I got something, but it wasn't what I asked. And then I got a whole lot of letters back. Donald Judd had just passed away the same year. And all of these other people, just maybe they moved on. Maybe they didn't want my mail, I don't know. And so I thought, well, I wasn't very confident that anyone would send anything back. But then I got this. So Jenny Holzer also did it wrong, but she wrote my name. So I was also really amazed with this. But wondering if anyone was going to do it right, then they did, because the next one I got was this one. And it's probably my most prized possession, apart from one other one in here, which is so funny and so amazing. So I know we're winding up, but I'll just show you. I got 12 responses in all. And I'm really just still blown away that people even bothered to do this. I love this one, their own little artwork. And this one was great. This is a grid artist. She made her own grids. I feel like I've got my own artwork of hers. But this one tops all of them, and this is where I'm going to end my talk, because I don't think I'll ever do anything as good as this ever in my life. This is from Solar Wit, and I spelt his name wrong. And he corrected my spelling, and he wrote my name wrong. And then he underlined where I went wrong on the front. And I just thought, we've just had the funniest joke together. And honestly, don't think I'll ever be able to do anything as good as this ever again. So thanks, everyone.
Back to the emojis. Oh, thank you so much, Narelle. That was just terrific. So generous. Yeah. Yeah. Like, are there any questions for Narelle? We've got a little bit of time. Yes, right up the back there. Do you think you can speak?
Yep.
We can, yep.
I was curious if you could talk about the balance of like intuition and experimentation with planning, and like how much these things kind of help your practice. It's quite difficult to answer that question, because I think, the balance is really hard to achieve, I think. And I never ever know whether the work is being, quite often when I've got like a playful thing going on in the work, I'm not really sure whether that's coming through. And sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I've made some work that looks quite serious when it's not meant to. So I feel like that's really hard to achieve, and I don't even know how to answer that, because I think that sometimes it will be what other people tell me their experience is when I'll sort of know. And I don't like it when I look at artworks and everything's spelled out. Like I think that there's something about leaving it open to whoever's looking at it that's really important to the way that I look at work. So that's the way that I kind of want to make work. So I feel that if I could actually answer that question, I think I'd have the secret to all of it.
Yeah. And another question, just, yep, or two more.
Yep.
With the basket, the beetle and the glass shelter, are those like three like works of yours that stand out throughout your career, and like do you exhibit them together? Do they always go together, or did you like exhibit them together?
They don't sit together. Some of the thinking does, which is why I've put them together. They're not, yeah, I've made other works that I probably would maybe prefer to talk about, but they don't sort of link back to this research, which is really important for me to start talking about in a public way. And I know this is a lunchtime forum, so it's not as heavy as what it could be, and it's intentionally not talking about heavy theory. But it's sort of a really good way for me to kind of start talking about these things publicly. So yeah, if I was talking about my work sort of more broadly, I probably wouldn't choose these things, but because of the research I have, and I think that they all could definitely be shown together, but they can also be shown independently. Oh, well, I thought for this, we've only got a short time, and I know with art forums, there's a tendency to kind of show a lot of things, and I didn't really want to show a lot of things, so that's why I chose these.
Ah, yeah, cool. I do too. Yeah.
Thank you.
And now, yeah, Mary?
Other artists being brought into practice and like kind of things reoccurring, whatever, and especially with artwork, for example, like clocks, whatever, that kind of continue for a period of time when they're, for example, shown in a gallery or I wonder if you ever like then recycle parts of the so recycle artworks into old artworks back, like if that continues.
Thank you, Mary. I don't, but I will have to because this will be examined, and there'll be an exhibition an examination exhibition, and some of the work. So I don't like holding on to things. I don't mind holding on to ideas, but I don't want to hold on to stuff. And I've got in one exhibition, I actually purchased these ex-McDonald's bench seats, which became sort of a transit station, and I got rid of them, and now I need them back. So I've got this. I don't really like to recycle the artwork, but I have to recycle the ideas. So yeah. And maybe I'll regret that later on when it comes to putting this show together. But yeah, I'm always want to do the next thing. I don't want to sort of dwell in that other work.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Greta.
This part, like, alluded to an idea about like the complexity of materials, or like it's like the materials that we see as design, which are much broader identification, or I guess the association. And I guess the designer as well. I was wondering if you, I don't know, I see your work and it's very like it's all very design language. I was wondering if you sort of thought about that in other areas. Right?
So is the question about the mop and having agency, or is it about design being part of the work?
As well, that design as this sorry, no.
Yeah, look, I think I'm really careful about making a distinction between like using design objects and using design critical histories and theories, and being a designer, because I don't think that any of those things, they might contain design cues and the design that there's some sort of design elements in them, but I think that I do often get mistaken for a designer, and I just don't. I think if I was making a hard edge painting, no one would ever make that distinction, but because it's a sculptural practice that leans into all of these things, I think it can be yeah, a little confusing for, I don't know, when you're looking at my work. So for me, it's just like I'm just making an artwork and I just happen to use something that exists in the world, or, yeah. So I'm not sure if that answers the question. Yeah.
That's good. It's great to hear that. So any other questions, maybe from the front this time? The students at the back have been pulling their weight here. Yes. Yeah.
Irrelevant questions.
Okay.
It's just such a joy hearing you go through the work in this way. And you made some really interesting remarks about what it means to be undertaking research now relative to your practice and design practice. You know, so you explained to one of the students, you know, because I wanted to kind of feature the fact that I'm doing this research for the PhD, I made these choices of particular artworks to help kind of describe that. And so a question that's often asked for people who come in from practice to do a PhD is, what is the process of the research and the PhD done to your practice? How's it transformed how you think about your practice and engaging in practice and move your practice forward?
Oh, it's changed everything really, because, and I think it's been really hard. But it's made me it's really challenged me in so many ways. And if I look back to when I first started the research, which was 22, and I think back, and I think to now, like my thinking has really has changed, and it's now changed forever. And in terms of how I approach making work, and yeah, like it's not that I look back on works and feel like they should have been made another way or differently, but I just feel now like I'm armed with maybe the bag. If we think about the bag is full, and I can just kind of go into it in a different way that I might just reach for another tool. So yeah, I don't know if that's the right way to answer it, but I feel like the practice is a lot richer.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, it's great. Wonderful. Final questions? No. Look, I reckon you nailed the voice of the bug.
Oh, do you? Oh, because that's
I thought it was great.
Well, like I said, I did steal, but yeah.
It worked.
Okay.
It was really good.
Okay.
I'd say it's all yours now. Yours and the bugs. Before we thank Narelle, I've got an announcement from Simone Slee. We're welcoming tomorrow.
Today.
Oh, it says tomorrow here, but that must have been yesterday's email. Sorry. It's today. It's the Jam Factory in Adelaide. They have a studio manager for ceramics whose name's Phoebe Kretschmer, and she'll be here between 1:30 and 2 today to meet and talk to anyone interested in ceramics and the program over in Adelaide at the Jam Factory. And it's going to be at the photography shoot room. So everyone welcome, please pop over between.
Can I say one other thing?
Yeah.
I know you have to go. We have an opening at Connors tonight, and it's really exciting. We have two shows. One is Liz Wick, who has made artworks in response to her father's shed in Humpty Doo, which is Termites Have Eaten her father's collection of settler fiction. And also we have a massive painting by Juan de Villa, which hasn't been shown in Melbourne for 9 years or something, but it was part of the documentary in 2006, and it takes up the entire space. So we're really excited about it, and come along if you're free tonight. It opens at 6.
Yeah, that'd be not to be missed.
And thank you to all our volunteers. I know there's some in the audience. Thank you.
Well, a big thank you to you, Narelle Desmond.